My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today and make the most of your summer with All Trails.
Welcome, guys, to this week's episode of Heavy Metal Tones with me, your podcast host, Tony Evans. It's going to be a slightly shorter one this week because I'm recording this just after sad news that my father passed away on Monday, and it's now Sunday following week, and my usual recording day. But I thought I'd get this out, so it won't be as long. But I've been sitting on this idea for. I'm going to say exactly every episode. I really originally had this episode written, or not written, planned when I first started the podcast way back in 2022. And so I'm thinking it's time to come out now. Now, what I might say through this podcast might cause some fans of this particular band some consternation, but you have to understand this is just in my opinion, and this isn't an attack on the band themselves or on the listeners of the music, because everyone has a valid reason to listen to what they want to listen to, and there's no problem with that. I'm just going to give you my journey of the story, my journey, and then we'll talk a bit about where I think it all went wrong for me anyway, personally for me, with this band. Not, I mean, they're very, very, very successful, so you can't say it's gone wrong for them. It's just I'm more on a sort of esoteric level, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the band is, as you would know by the clicking on the link to listen to the show, the band is the Swedish band Ghost. Now, I first, or Ghost BC at one point. I first came across this band. Now they formed in 2006, and I am not going to pronounce the name in Sweden because I do not want to offend any Swedish listeners or get my tongue in a twist. And they had a 3-track demo followed by 7-inch vinyl called Elizabeth, which was of their debut album, Opus Eponymous. The album was nominated for a Grammy, and the song Ritual off of it was considered by Kerrang one of the 50 top evilest songs of all time. Now, I first came across them, this is early days, so 2007 maybe, probably 2007, just after that. They just released the single Elizabeth, and I was reading an article on the online Kerrang magazine, and James Hetfield said, "Watch out for this band; they're absolutely amazing." And what's his name from Slayer? Kerry King said a pile of shit. So I thought, well, brilliant. I have to listen to this band, and it was very hard to find their stuff because it was early days of them. So I sort of managed to find a website that someone had put the single up, and I saw an image of the lead singer. Tobias Forge, when he's in his first incarnation as a Papa Emeritus, the sort of zombie Pope, which is one it straight away, and then it grabbed me. I was instantly hooked, and the band wore all their faces were covered, and they were unnamed ghouls, and I was like, this is just what I have been looking for. Genuinely, I thought this is it. This is I haven't even pressed play on the song yet, and I thought, wow, this is brilliant. This is like the anti-Kiss. This is like sort of theatrical black metal. I thought this is brilliant. This is sort of all that sort of black and white extreme corpse paint that you get in the Norwegian stuff. Well, this was something more accessible, but I have a deep love of Italian zombie movies and Italian exploitation movies of the 70s, horror exploitation movies, and it just felt like it was straight from that. I know it's not Italian, but it felt that way. And then I listened to the song and I thought, oh my God, this is, I don't know, I'd call it one of the top 50 of scariest songs of all time, but songs of all time, but certainly it had this brilliant mix of creepiness. It had a gothic feel. The vocal was just on the right side of wrong, and it had this brilliant sort of Blue Oyster Cult vibe, which I absolutely adored. So I thought that was all. I couldn't get any more on them, So it was like, well, I've got this song, brilliant, and I would talk to people about it. I would spruik about them. No one would listen, as I didn't have a show then, and people didn't really care. And then I had the chance of seeing them at 2008, I think it is, Soundwave, and it was brilliant. Like I couldn't wait all day. It was a weird one because it was in the sunshine, and it was on a small stage. And my friend Dave was like, "Oh, I don't listen to this crap. Who's this crap?" And he's a big fan now, mind you. They're taking the mickey out of metal, and I'm like, "No, they're not. Just come and watch." And it was only probably a handful of people, but I remember because the band before it was Killswitch Engage, and I was like, "Can you just get off? You've done enough now." They kept playing other songs. I'm really move on. And they left. I don't like Killswitch Engage, and they left, and on came this, to not much fanfare, but how he came in all his Papa glory, in his papal clothes and his papal hat and his staff, and he stood there with his arms spread out, and he's got this sort of rubber mask, and he sings through it really well, considering it's not a most movable mask. By no means is it prosthesis. It's not glued on individual pieces so he has full facial movability. It's a face hugging latex mask, and I can't imagine it'd be that easy to do it in the heat in that thing. But anyway, it went through this set, and it basically played all of the tracks off the first album, and it just it was brilliant. I was hooked. And then they went on to release in 2013 their second album on a major label this time around, because the original label, I got a picture this copy of the album that my kids bought me for Christmas that year, and it's not on a major label. I think it's on Metal Blade, but I could be wrong. I'd have to check into that. Anyway, let me check. I will check while I'm here with you, so you can know that I'm looking at this. Let's have a go. No, Rise Above. Sorry, Rise Above. I knew it was something like that. One of those lower, so smaller labels, even though it's quite a big label now. The Japanese copy of it did release a cover version of "Here Comes the Sun" by the Beatles. Now that should give you a bit of a warning what's things to come for me with this band. So in 2013, they released their second album, Infatissimum, which is, again, I thought was they done really well. I remember pre-ordering it from the local record shop here, JB Hi-Fi, and struggling with it because the person who I ordered it from couldn't spell it. It came with a patch. I remember the DVD, the CD. I consequently got it on vinyl, but I was at that time I just wanted to get it on CD and get it so I could get it because it wasn't easy to get hold of. And also the CD came with that patch. So why not? It topped the Swedish charts and won Grammy Awards for Best Hard Rock and Metal Album. And it basically put them on the map. It's a really controversial cover because there's a couple of versions of the cover, and this is where this is one of the reasons also I like, because I do like bands that caught a bit on the dance at the wrong side of controversy sometimes, you know. It's a Latin word which means most hostile, emphaticum, by the way, or the biggest threat in reference to the Antichrist. It recorded in America, in Nashville. Yeah, the cover itself, it's got it's got Papa on the front. Like, okay, back to the original album. Sorry. Also, one of the reasons I love the original album is that it's got a picture. It's the artwork is ripped straight off of my favorite horror miniseries of all time, which is Salem's Lot. And it's got the Barlow, but they're changing it with Papa above the house. It's brilliant. Anyway, it had a couple of singles: Secular Haze, Year Zero. Off it, the artwork. Here we go. The album artwork with it was Polish artwork, but it got originally scheduled to be released on the 9th of April. But however, the band could not find a manufacturer that would do the CD because of the artwork on the front. And the artwork, because it's got a crucified Christ, and originally, okay, and yeah, look, this sort of thing bugs me, and you know that, right? It's also got on the front. They originally wanted a crucifixion, but then they put on a 16th century depiction of an orgy, and the manufacturers of the CD wouldn't print it. I mean, come on, this is 2013, for Pete's sake, right? This is what happens when you record and print in some states of America. It's going to happen that way. So anyway, that aside, it was sexual, and it had a sexual iconoclasm to it. But they managed to get it put out and sort of rained down, and it wasn't too bad, and they passed it. The vinyl manufacturers don't have a problem with it in the artwork in Europe and Japan. It was only the Americans. Anyway, let's get back to where we were coming from. So, brilliant album, okay? Two great singles. Really heavy. It didn't change its sound too much. Even going from a smaller label to a major label, they still kept their momentum. What was brilliant about it was that they felt in the second album, Papa changed. You had Papa 2. He's the development of the main character, much like Eddie. He was changing, and I like that. It wasn't just a static image of the Papa. He got a bit more decrepit, slightly different look, and what they were doing is they were making T-shirts that they had artwork which is unbelievably catchy and addictive, and that's how I met my good friend Benji, who has been on the show here a couple of times and runs my other website with me, my other Facebook page with me, and he's just one of the best guys on the planet. And I bumped into him in a cafe. He was where my daughter worked. He was getting a coffee, and he was wearing a Ghost shirt. And of course, at that time, back then, you did not in this small town that I live in fact, in Australia in general, you did not see Ghost shirts. And so I had to stop and say, hey man, respect, you don't see that very often. And we got chatting, and the next thing we know, really great friends, and all because of this brilliant band that we both had a mutual love for. So that album came out, and the sound got bigger, and Papa slightly changed, and we were craving the next album, and there was lots of artwork and lots of hype. Now, by this time, they were getting with the Grammy Awards, they were getting a little bit more oomph behind him, and still only had the same. I think I could be wrong, but still had the original, the Nameless Ghouls. But there was a problem. The Nameless Ghouls. It's very interesting. People want to be famous, but don't want to be seen. So there was issues with the fact that they could walk around unknown. Even Papa, even then, there was also controversy who Papa was. No one didn't know. A lot of people didn't know it was Tobias Forge. But they also wanted to be famous. They wanted, and there was typical music industry issues with writing credits, who wrote this, who wrote that, blah 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 blah. And later down the track, it gets really really messy. But then comes 2015. On the ascendancy, they released my favorite of the only three albums I actually own of the band. I think from here on in, this is the end of it for me. So Meliora, I like Meliora a lot. It reached number 1 in Sweden, number 8 in the US. It had a lead single, Circe, earned them a 2016 Grammy Award for Best Metal Performance. And it had this is when their real onstage theatrics took off. It really became something different. Now, Meliora, so let me just keep this for you. It's Latin for the pursuit of something better. The album was produced and again recorded in America. Here, August 21st, 2015, it was released. I have several copies of this because I actually really love. I've got this one with a really nice coloured book that came with it. Really, really good. It's on the Loma Vista label, so it's not on. They're jumping labels here, right? By the way, they had Circe released on the 30th of May 2015, and then I'm saying that wrong. Circe wrong. I'm saying it wrong, but you'll get it when you see the word. And then From the Pinnacle to the Pit, which I really love as a single, on July 17th that year, and then Majesty on August that year. I'm not going to go through track listings. This isn't about that this time round. This is just about the band itself and my journey with the band and where they're heading. Okay, so again, this time round, the Papa again changed, and we had a really, you get this sort of, he starts becoming a little bit more, I hate to say user-friendly. I think, is that the wrong term, user-friendly? I'm not sure if that's the wrong term. But he becomes a little bit easier on the eye, right? Because suddenly they're making lots of money in America. Now, I'm just going to pause there. We're going to come back on the other side because I've noticed it's been 16 minutes. I need a bit more of my drink. And then we'll chat more about where they're going. And we'll also talk about some of my favourite tracks you might want to jump into if you haven't heard the band before. Because I really don't want you to not listen to them if you haven't. I just want to tell you my journey. I will talk to you on the other side, guys. Bye for now.
This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say I'm sorry, and then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee with your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 an order. Additional terms apply.
Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Welcome back to part 2 of my journey with the band Ghost, one of the world's biggest bands at the moment, actually, which is interesting. Now, as I finished on the other side about Meliora, the Papa 3 is a little bit more stage friendly. If you look at his makeup, it's really white and angular. He's got the short hair. He's not as decrepit and aggressive. He doesn't have as evil a look as 1 and 2 did. Now, there's a reason for that, okay? Because this is just, and I'm just gonna, this is just from my only personal opinion. If you want to make lots and lots and lots of money in the music industry, you want to break the great and wonderful continent of America. North, south, and wherever you want to break that continent. Now, rightly or wrongly, America is a deeply religious country. Okay, it has its roots deeply founded in the Pilgrims, and this is a wonderful thing for them. No problem. I'm not here to bag anyone, but that's what they do. So they're very, very strongly Christian, and so having a band that espouses satanic imagery, and quite quite strong satanic imagery, and quite strong satanic lyrics. It's okay to have a song about Elizabeth Bathory and stuff like that if you want to just make a few bucks and get on by and sell a couple of albums, do tours. But if you want to live the Kiss lifestyle, which I think Tobias Forge genuinely does, and I'm speaking for someone I've met, of course, then you have to conform. And this is where my irksomeness comes in, is they, from Meliora onwards, and in fact even from, as in Meliora, I think even some parts of Meliora, to be honest, Papa becomes more visually friendly, the imagery becomes less satanic, or it's, and I'm going to use this term without offending Ghost fans, Disney-fied Satanism, okay? And so they distance themselves from their previous albums and their previous images and the image, and they start moving towards, and this is all Tobias Forge, I really feel this. He had a big falling out with the band, and they said, I wrote all the songs, and they said they didn't. It's gone to court. I mean, all sorts. I don't want to go into that. I'm not going into that, okay? But they changed their name in 2013 to Ghost because the Japanese band in Ghost Beat was called Ghost BC through legal issues. That's another thing they that went through. But that aside, they changing their image. They're becoming MTV friendly. I mean, bands like Slayer and Venom and these big Behemoth is another one. These big bands that write not satanic lyrics, but lyrics that are really edgy and aggressive, and sometimes on the wrong side of right, on the right side of wrong even. They're not, even though me listeners, we think they're the biggest bands in the world. In respect to record sales, they're not Taylor Swift. They're not Bon Jovi. They're not, to some extent, they're not even, I know, let's say Motley Crue or something like that, which is sort of even though they've had their controversies, it's rather radio friendly and visually easy on the eye music, right? In America, that is, anyway. So this is my problem, is that you you you, you soften your image, and you, not that I don't feel that I could follow them, I just felt, and there's a lot they went very, very poppy in their sound. Okay, they've released mini albums that are cover versions of ABBA. Now they're Swedish, and I fucking love ABBA. I really love ABBA. But I don't want to hear a zombie pope singing ABBA. I really just don't. Now, there is an upside to this. There's always an upside to all of these things. There is an upside. It brings more of your, I don't like the term normal people, but it brings those fans to this kind of music that they probably wouldn't have done before. You know, the ones, I'm going to talk about the gamers, the nerds, and I'm a nerd, but you know what I mean, right? That kind of part of society that is awkward. Let's just say that, and it brings them together like an army, right? Which is wonderful. I remember walking to Download a couple of years ago with Benji pre-COVID, and that's with my wife. Sorry, not Ben. Benji was already there, and there's all these Ghost fans wearing these t-shirts, and they were all new Ghosts. You could tell, or sort of. I felt, and I just got really angry. I felt really, really betrayed, and it's funny how you can feel betrayed. I just did. I felt like they had this in the palm of their hands. It's a brilliant concept. This, you know, but they sort of sold out. And then I know people talk about people selling out. There was a whole thing about the punks selling out, metal bands selling out. Yes, I understand you've got to live. Yes, you've got to make money. But there's making money and there's greed. And it just feels like to me that softening his image, you know, after his 2017 lawsuit with the band about the costume, about who wrote this and who didn't do that. He then changed his Pope to a Cardinal Copia for the album Prequel. And look, I wanted desperately to like this album. I really, really did. I remember the day that the first single dropped from it, Rats. I was so excited. And I remember it was off work, it was a sunny day, and Benji was in his house and I was in mine, and we listened to it. We said, let's not listen to it, we listened to it together. And we listened to it separately and then rang each other. It was what the fuck was that? And genuinely, now, Benji, to be honest, has taken it much harder than me. I think he had lived in a musical wilderness for a few years, where he loved metal, but it was sort of, he fell out with it, you know, and Ghost brought him back, and I felt for him because he really wanted that to continue, right? And he wanted that, like me, he really enjoyed the subversive darkness of it. He did very, very well. Like, it spent 7 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard charts. I mean, it was massive in America. And again, because they abandoned their image. You know, they didn't become completely, white, pop, but they definitely softened. I mean, they sold 66,000 copies in the first week. And that was 61,000 traditional album sales, not downloads, which is brilliant, right? The album's themes include medieval times and Black Death, right? It is, look, it's not a bad album, all right? I just couldn't get my head too much around it. I really, really couldn't. But before that, I've jumped one. I really am sorry. They had an EP, as I mentioned before, called Pope Star. Okay. And it had on it Nocturnal Me by Echo and the Bunnymen. I Believe by a disco cover by Simeon Mobile. Never heard of them. Missionary Man, which I love as original version by the Rhythmics, not by this people, I can't tell you. A black metal cover of Bible by Imperiat, a Christian folk band. Look, it just doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't know where it's going. It's meandering. It's posturing. It's just nothing. You know, if you're going to be a cover band, if you're going to do covers, fine. But I don't understand doing Echo and the Bunnymen and Eurythmics. And I love both those bands. But I just don't know. I mean, they one of the original songs on their Square Hammer. Yes. It charted very well. It charted very, very well. You know, in the UK, it didn't chart at all. 85 in the UK, interestingly. That's then and now in the UK, their music charts really, really hit, really massive. But yeah, had Pope Star, which again I thought was going to be. I mean, it was a joke. Both Benji and I we just laughed. I can't, and Benji himself had to get out of all those wonderful forums that he was in talking to Pope Ghost fans because he opened his mouth and said something negative, and they just at him. I didn't jump into those things because for me it wasn't. It's not for me, to be honest with you. I don't want to. I knew you can tell. I mean, I put my life in my own hands doing this episode, to be honest with you. But there was positives, okay, listeners, if you're still listening, because the first three albums are really good. I really, really love them. It's just since that change of direction where it feels a betrayal in a sort of way. Anyway, his makeup became a little bit lighter again. He's got the again, he's changing. He's becomes more this disco kind of, he's wearing a purple sort of velour, tight-skinned suit with a cane and a big hat, and he comes out and there's they've got saxophone players, and he's wiggling around like a demented ghoulish purple version of a Spanish flamenco dancer. And musically, it just it just fell apart for me. So prequel, and then they did release some singles called 7 Inches of Satanic Panic. I don't want to cover that because I think that's just again. Well, should I? Let's have a look. Let's see if I should. I've never actually really got my ears around it, so I can't really give anything out. I think there was a group of singles. And anyway, then they released Imperia in 2022, and I haven't even gone near it. The singles that came off it, Hunter's Moon. They released They did release some music for the Halloween movie Halloween Kills. A single called "Call Me Little Sunshine." Please stop now, okay? I want them just to go back into time and well, that was a 2022 album. I just wanted to go back into time and grab their original their original concept. Now the EP that I'm talking about, about Satanic, the 7 Inches of Satanic Panic, came out on the 13th of September 2019, and its track listing is as follows: Kiss the Goat, the Go-Goat, that's an original. Mary on a Cross. Now they were meant to be really dark and really sort of satanic, and then you get the single cover, and it's this sort of butchered 70s-esque like the kind of poster that you would have got for The Devil Rides Out, which is one of my favorite Hammer movies of all time. It's just really dull, and it just doesn't do anything for me. Imperia again was said had some. I never really listened to it, and you might say to me, but how can you possibly judge it? I'm not judging the albums. I told you that now. I listened to the singles off of it, and these are the bands that this album was inspired by. Okay, Boston, Dio, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, ABBA. The theme of the album was the rise and fall of empires. They're putting too much into this. You're reading too much into it for me. It's its music was considered. They're considered then by now hard rock and arena rock and glam metal. So a dramatic U-turn from their satanic black leanings at the beginning. As I said before, you live in a country where you want to sell millions of records, and you want to fill out stadiums. You're not going to do that with Mr. Satan as your basic concept, right? The devil. You're not going to do it. They're very, 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 very worried about that kind of stuff over there. I've done a whole episode on the Satanic Panic. You can go back and listen to that. It's just a little bit, just a bit too poppy for me. And then they released. Sorry, I'm doing this because from my phone because I made notes using my phone this time round, and it's very frustrating. Give me a second. I'm going to find it. They subsequently released another EP after that called Pantomime or Phantomime. It was released on 19th of May last year in 2023 on the Loma Vista record label. 5 covers again. A cover of a Genesis song, Jesus He Knows Me, that really irks me. Because I you know me in Genesis, if you listen to my podcast enough, big fan. And not my favorite Genesis song by no means. Not a massive lover of that era, because that's the We Can't Dance era. But still, and then Iron Maiden's Phantom of the Opera, which was atrocious. I loved it when Paul Diano came out and said, "What the fucking rubbish is? What is this crap?" And he can say that because he wrote it, right? So, I mean, it did really well commercially. Top 8 in the UK charts, would you believe? I mean, crazy, really. And then Hanging Around by the Stranglers. You can't see me, listeners, but I've got my hand in my head. I really do. What do you want to be? What do you want to be? Do you want to be a cover band? Because if you want to be a cover band, do that. These cover bands EPs are just to make money and to pull in an audience that is not, who is on the borders and the fringes of society, that likes the idea of dabbling with the devil, behemoth, stuff, Satan. They want to play with that, but they are too scared because their community will shun them, or they're too scared in general. So they're playing with stuff that is what we would call over here Aldi Light or Little Light, or Walmart, as Walmart. It's Satanism for you Americans. And so I'm lost to say. I don't know really where they're going from here. I've lost the journey with them. I'm going to be honest. I don't like to be negative on this program, so I'm going to end with some positives. Okay, and we're going to talk about the tracks that, if you really want to listen, of the 3 albums that I listened to. I may go back one day and try and see if I can get beyond my bias. I did it with other albums. I may do it. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this particular subject. Please, if you don't come at me with aggressive behaviors, though, and don't be rude. If you're going to come at me, talk to me in a nice, professional and level-headed manner. I know that Ghost fans can be very, very funny about their music, and that's fine. It will have passions and love what you love. So off the first album, off eponymous, let's get it up. Off eponymous Opus Eponymous from 2010. Again, brilliant album. It's uh, there is not a weak song on this album. Um, Deus Culpa, the instrumental opening, it's very eerie. It's brilliant. I mean, my favorite song on the album is actually Con Clavi Con Dio. That's the second track on the album, which is brilliant. But then of course there's Prime Mover right at the end of the album. So in fact the whole album is brilliant right through. So Deus Culpa, Conclavi Con Dio, Ritual, Elizabeth, Stand By Him, Satan Prayer, Death Knell, Prime Mover, and Genesis. It's a short album, 34 minutes. Won't take you long to get through it. I personally have never heard the Japanese cover on the Japanese album of Here Comes the Sun, so I can't give that any um, I can't give it any real sort of review, but it's a really, really good album. Now you'll find that um, on some of some of the records, the writing credits are under Tobias Forge, um, but I think other pressings had Nameless Ghouls on there as well. This is all to do with the court case. We won't go back in over that. But that first album, honestly, you can't go wrong with every track. Put it on, you'll love it from beginning to end. You'll be hooked, and we'll see how you go. You might love the journey that it takes you on. I did up until Meliora, as I said. And then the Meliora, and where's my Meliora? Pardon me. All this going on this week, it's been quite a challenging time, as you can imagine. So getting this out has been cathartic for me, in fact. So let's have a look. So then we get to Infestissimum. And the track listing for that one goes as follows. Let's find my track listing. Okay, so Year Zero. So it starts with, that's a single off it. So it starts with Infestissimum. Then it's got Per Aspera ad Inferi. All right. I'm absolutely butchering that Latin. Ergo, they go the house. Yeah, that's all right. Little Python joke. Secular Haze, Gigolo Ha Megiddo, Ghoul a Zombie Queen, Year Zero, Body and Blood, Idolatrine, Death of Satan's Eyes, and Monstrous Clock. Again, no weak points in this album. I think this is actually stronger than the first album if I have to think about it. The tracks that I really love on it though, Goulet Zombie Queen, 7 minutes 29, really catchy, great chorus, really dark, real sort of digging into their sort of Sabbath and Blue Oyster Cult leanings. Secular Haze, the single, was a great song. Again, brilliant artwork for that single. Idolatrine. And this is the difference when you listen to this stuff and then move to the later stuff. They use these words, but they don't write songs like this, as dark as this. In fact, Monstrous Clock is quite eerie, quite an absolute fantastic ending for an album. One of my favourites on the end there. The deluxe edition does have other songs on it, like I'm a Marionette by ABBA. Again, this ABBA bloody covers. I know you're Swedish, but again, really. Year Zero has Old Testament chanting on it. It sort of alludes to satanic Lucifer and the book of Isaiah. It's quite dark. I love that, and I wish they could have kept going in that direction. I won't go over that more. So then we get to Meliora, the third and final album that I own and that I will listen to. When they start moving towards out from their dark phase into their pop phase. And the tracks are Spirit, From the Pinnacle to the Pit, Circe. I keep pronouncing that wrong. A Swedish song which is Go Sonata, which is pronounced Spock Sanota. I can't even, that's wrong. Sorry, my Swedish friends. He is Mummy Dust, Majesty, Devil Church, Absolution, Deus in Absentia. And to be honest with you, again, the only one I don't really like on this particular song is Absolution. It's a bit too punk, a bit too poppy for me. But From the Pinnacle to the Pit, really great single, really good video, brilliant artwork. In fact, I've still got a lot of their posters up in my garage. The early artwork I really adore. Benji had friends in America where they would swap artwork and T-shirts, and I've got a really rare Soundwave T-shirt that I own. I own loads of Ordinary Ghost shirts. Like, I do have loads of them. I just don't wear them anymore. He is a good singer as well. Quite poppy, quite easy listening, but obviously it's alluding to satanic imagery. Mummy Dust is a quite a dark and obsidious track, and I really like it. Sits right in the middle of the album. The whole album itself has this kind of 70s horror movie vibe, Italian horror movie vibe. If you've seen any of those, any 70s Lucio Fulci movies, any of the there's lots of Diodato and lots of Italian directors I could off the top of my head. If you ever watch any of those movies, you'll see there's lots of these cheesy eye close-ups and very blonde kids that usually the evil protagonists in there, and these strange imagery shots that come in and go out for no reason, strange camera angles and storylines that make no sense. Like a good example of that, a director whose name is Claudio Fragasso. Claudio Fragasso is well known for using shitloads of dry ice and fog to get his images across, and they're usually pretty gory. They're usually pretty badly acted, and they usually have a terrible script, but they're wonderful to watch. And if you take your brain out and I want to go a roller coaster ride, and this is a bit like this album, I would say this is it. This is the pinnacle of their 70s horror theme music. As I said, I really can't say for anything afterwards apart from the singles I've listened to. So for me, what I'm going to give to you is, if you have never heard Ghost before, or Ghost BC, go out there, have a listen. Their music is very, very accessible now. And if you've never heard them, do go right from the beginning. Don't start with the later stuff. Go right from the beginning and listen to their progression musically, lyrically, and commercially. Because to me now, I have a feeling that Tobias just wants to be Gene Simmons. He just wants to be Gene Simmons, and I can't abide that man. So I think he just wants to sell. Money. Now, as I said at the beginning, there is nothing wrong with wanting to have wealth, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be famous. But you choose the direction you want. You either be true to yourself. I mean, although saying that, I could be wrong here. Okay, thinking about it just then, maybe that he is a big pop person, and he just used like punks did. A lot of punk bands like XTC and to some extent like the Stranglers used punk to get in to the music industry. Maybe they did that. Maybe he used the satanic image, the metal thing, because Sweden's well known for its black metal scene. And then as they got more traction, move more towards his true love, which is Swedish pop or pop music. And fine, if that is what he's done, then great. He gave me anyway and Benji 3 cracking albums that we really adore. But sadly, I feel it's an avenue of music which I can't really explore anymore. It hurts me to think about it, because I was, there's that whole, that you weren't there, man. You don't know, you weren't there. And I was there right at the beginning. I did find them when they were an underground band. I did search and hunt out their stuff. I did get imported album, the imported single. I got all that when it was first really bloody hard to get, and I got it, and I worked at it, and then it became this. People that would deride me for listening to it were now suddenly walking around with Go shirts. You'd walk around the shops, and there are all these teenies in ghost shirts thinking, now, they're offending the man, the system man. They weren't. They're not. Because you can't when you're singing ABBA songs. You just can't. Anyway, enough from me. Maybe it's a bit darker this time around because of the news and the issues I've had this week. I do apologise if I've got a bit out of my normal positivity window. Fenestrated out of my window. Sorry, I don't know where that came from. The next couple of weeks after this are going to be best sobs. I won't tell you what they are. You'll just get them when they come. They're 2 episodes I'm really proud of. Sadly, the sound isn't as good as what it is now because I was using a different computer, a different door, a different mic, a different setup, a different part of my house. So it's all a little bit different. When I listen back to it, I do think, oh God, it's not as good a sound as I have now. But we all grow, don't we? I hope you enjoy them. I did enjoy recording them. I remember loving doing the research for them. Anyway, enough from me. Don't be put off by what I say. If you've listened to Ghost albums and love them, good. If you're not, have never gone to them, do jump in, start from the beginning, give it a go, and love to know what your thoughts are. You might think the way they moved was just right up your alley. It might be. You might hate me for everything I said, but it is only a personal opinion, and if you love it, I love you for loving it. No stress, no skin off my back. I want you to be and love what you love. It's always been the same. I'm not going to point fingers and get angry at you. Just don't get angry at me. All right? Bye for now. Now, before I go quickly, please do like and subscribe. Please do leave a review. Please do tell your friends. The more that listen, the more I can spread my word. The more that I get more listeners. The more that the more that we can just be a family of metal loving nutters, right? Bye for now. Talk to you when I get back from the UK in a few weeks. Bye for now.